Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 4 and we are going to present about the element of contract, which is offer and acceptance. So my name is Nur Aziza Aminah binti Muhammad Amin. My matrix number is 1190718. So, an offer is a promise to do or not to do something insufficiently clear, terms that may be accepted by another. An offer should be distinguished from an invitation to trade and a mere expression of intention to do or not to do some act. For acceptance, the acceptance of the offerer's terms must be unconditional. In many cases, this may constitute a yes or no reply to an offer made. An offer may be accepted by conduct. Silence, however, can never constitute acceptance. For the first case, which is Dickinson's versus Dodds, 1875, the facts of this case is the defendant, Mr. Dodds, wrote to the complainant, Mr. Dickinson, with an offer to sell his house to him for $800. He promised that he would keep this offer open to him until Friday. However, on the Thursday, Mr. Dodds accepted an offer from a third party and sold his house to them. It was claimed that Mr. Dickinson was going to accept this offer but had not said anything to Mr. Dodds because he understood that he had until Friday. Mr. Dodds communicated that the offer had been withdrawn through a friend to the complainant. After hearing this, Mr. Dickinson went to find the defendant, explaining his acceptance of the offer. The complainant brought an action for specific performance and breach of contract against the defendant.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hamisatul Auni binti Abu Bakar. My matric number is 1190695. So I will continue the presentation with the issue of the case. The issue in this case was whether the defendant's promise to keep the offer open until Friday morning was a binding contract between the parties, and if he was allowed to revoke this offer and sell to a third party. Next is judgment. The court held that the statement made by Mr. Dodds was nothing more than a promise. There was no binding contract form. He had communicated an offer for buying his house to the complainant, and this offer can be revoked anytime before there is acceptance. There was no deposit to change the situation. Thus, as there was no obligation to keep the offer open, there could be no meeting of the minds between the parties. In addition, the court stated that a communication by a friend or other party that an offer had been withdrawn was valid and would be treated as if it came from the person themselves. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fatin Nurmaisara binti Maslan. My matrix number is 1190686. Okay, I will present about the cases 2, which is Carly versus Carbolic Smoke. The fact is the defendant, the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company, placed an advertisement in a newspaper for their product, stating that any person who purchased and used their product but still contracted influenza despite properly following the instruction would be entitled to a £100 reward. The advert further stated that the company had demonstrated its sincerity by placing £1,000 in a bank account to act as the reward. The claim Mrs. Carly does purchase some smoke balls, and despite proper use, contracted influenza and attempt to claim the $100 reward from the defendants. The defendants contend that they could not be bound by the advert as it was an invitation to trade rather than an offer, on the grounds that the advert was a mere puff and lacking true intent. That an offer could not be made to the world, the claim had not technically provided acceptance. The wording of the advert was insufficiently precise at that there was not consideration as necessary for the creation of a binding contract in law.
My name is Siti Nur Amalia binti Abdul Razak. My matric number is 1190714. Okay, the issue for case 2 is about whether the advert in question constituted an offer or an invitation to trade. Next, for the judgment, the Court of Appeal found for the claimant, determining that the advert amounted to the offer for a unilateral contract by the defendant. In completing the conditions stipulated by the advert, Mrs. Carley provided acceptance. The court further found that the advert's own claim to sincerity negated the company's assertion of lacking intent. An offer could indeed be made to the world. Wording need only be reasonably clear to imply terms rather than entirely clear, and consideration was identifiable in the use of the balls.